Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today we're going to be talking about thyroid health, and this specific infection can negatively impact your thyroid. We're going to talk about it. We'll kind of talk about the root causes. We'll dial in some of the things that you can do to address them. And again, if you want more support, there'll be a link down below where you can reach out to my staff and team if you want more functional medicine support in that area. Before we do, please smash the like button. Love to see your comments down below. All right, so let's dive in. So with thyroid issues, right? We have hypothyroidism where we have low thyroid hormone. Typically, it's predicated by high pituitary hormone, high TSH. That is a very late stage indicator. So your TSH starts to go above 4.5. It'll be flagged in most parts of the country once you're above 4.5 to 5. And then usually that high TSH corresponds with lower thyroid hormone downstream because the volume of the pituitary is raising its voice to get more output from the thyroid. Now, a lot of times you could see low thyroid hormone, but you actually may have thyroid hormone downstream from T4 and from T3 that's actually normal. Maybe your T4 is still at 1 or your T3 is still above 3, but it's having to be overstimulated. I call it whipping a tired horse. Okay, the horse performs, you have to whip it a lot, but eventually it's going to say, hey, I'm done. I am tired, and I'm going to just take a sit back and relax, right? And that's what's happening to your thyroid. Now, in this situation, most times there's an autoimmune issue at play. So it's not just a primary pituitary issue where the pituitary is dysregulated, maybe from stress, maybe from poor nutrition, maybe from inflammation. There's an autoimmune component that's added to it. So now your immune system is attacking the thyroid, which does add to inflammation. So it adds inflammation, but it also now the tissue itself is being destroyed. And so now over time, the functional tissue, the functional follicles within that thyroid gland are now not going to produce thyroid hormone at that same level. And maybe even thyroid hormone can spill out of it, creating these high and low swings, and maybe even make you feel hyper at times, or anxious, or heart palpitations, or jittery. And then, of course, that inflammation can impact the brain. You could have cognitive problems. And then, obviously, the gut plays a big role because that's where 80% of the immune system is, right? 80% is in the gut. And so if you have this autoimmunity, usually there's a leaky gut, gastrointestinal permeability mechanism happening that impacts the immune system. And then now the immune system is hyperactive. And so now foods that get in there, like gluten and like dairy, can impact the immune response. But now infections, especially lipopolysaccharides that are the outer cell of the bacteria that get in there, get into your gut, they can start to impact the immune response and increase the leaky gut or the gut permeability, if you will. Your conventional endocrinologist won't really acknowledge leaky gut, but the technical term is gastrointestinal permeability. And if you go into pubmed.gov, you'll see thousands of articles on that topic. And so it just really shows that most conventional medical doctors on this topic they're misinformed, right? There isn't a treatment for that, right? What do you do? There isn't a treatment. Things like autoimmune thyroid, it's not bad enough to come out and use biologics, to use Enbrel, Humira, to use steroids, to use immunosuppressants. It's not bad enough. And so you're kind of just stuck, okay, let's give you some thyroid hormone, maybe some levothyroxine or Synthroid, bring that TSH down, and then we're done. We'll call it a day. But you're going to still have a lot of thyroid symptoms because you're not fixing the underlying issue. That's the problem. I'm not anti-medication. I'm pro-root cause. And so if you're palliatively patching up the symptoms, it's like going into your car, the check engine light's on. We just put duct tape over the check engine light. We're just fixing the symptom, not the underlying cause. So we want to be pro root cause, not anti-medication. Sometimes people need thyroid hormone, whether it's synthetic. I'm more biased towards natural because it's got a full spectrum, a full suite of T4, T3, calcitonin. It's got also T2 in there, not just a synthetic T4. And so I'm more biased towards that natural component. But if we were to just give that and get that TSH looking better, but we didn't fix the underlying physiology, that's still problematic, right? It's still problematic. I want to get to the root cause. So now we talked about infections. The title of this video, how H. pylori can mess up your thyroid. Well, H. pylori is this gram-negative bacteria, and there's a lot of articles associating Hashimoto's and H. pylori because it can impact the immune response in a very negative way. I'll pull up a study here in just a second, and we'll look at it together. In my book, The Thyroid Reboot, take a look. It's on Amazon now. Go to thyroidreboot.com. There'll be a link down below. Click on it. You'll be able to get my book. Great way to support me and all that I do. I appreciate it, but lots of great information in that book. But take a look at it. There's a whole section on what I call the infection connection, which are these different infections that can trigger an immune response, right? They can definitely trigger an immune response. So I'm going to pull up one study. This is a 2023 study, which is kind of cool. All right. All right, here we go. I'm going to pull it up here right now for you guys, and you guys can see it. This is great. So again, this is an association study, but we know infections, especially in the gut, that's where 80% of immune cells are. So if we go through it right here, there's a significant association between long-lasting H. pylori and autoimmune thyroid disease. That's AITD. It was found irrespective of age, smoking status. The association with long-lasting H. pylori was confirmed to be significant for both Hashimoto's and Graves'. Stratification according age, and then our conclusion, our results indicate that long-lasting H. pylori infection associated with autoimmune thyroid disease in adult females and population in northern Scandinavia or Sardinia. This is a European study. So we know it's there, right? And so what's the mechanism, right? The mechanism is the proteins of H. pylori actually look very similar to the thyroid, and it can provoke and stimulate the immune response to go after that tissue. There was an Italian study where they actually treated, they had one group was the control group. They had H. pylori and they had Hashimoto's, and the other group had H. pylori and Hashimoto's, and one group they actually treated with an antibiotic, the other group a placebo. And they found that the group that they treated with the antibiotic had a significant lowering in the thyroid antibodies. And so that's fascinating. So we know the infection is doing something either from a leaky gut standpoint or triggering an immune response due to its surface proteins on the lipopolysaccharides looking similar and triggering a molecular mimicry response. So it's going to be one or two of those, I think, mechanisms. The gut permeability is the most well-researched. Alessio Fasano has done all kinds of research on gut permeability and zonulin protein, which is a protein that goes up when the tight junctions, the actin-myosin tight junctions open up. He's done all kinds of studies on that. I mean, the issue is he looks at gluten a lot, right? Gluten's a big stimulator. He said gluten is one of the biggest stimulators for leaky gut and autoimmunity. But again, infections like H. pylori can also. There's also a study on blastocystis hominis being a big stimulator too. You could also see things like chronic candida can also be a big thing too. So you want to work on knocking down these microbes. Now, my opinion, don't go after it with antibiotics. That can create more problems. With certain infections, there are what's called efflux pumps. Efflux pumps are what the infection or H. pylori uses to push the antibiotic back outside and to prevent it from knocking them out. And so with herbs, we have a better chance of knocking out those efflux pumps using ginger, maybe using golden seal. We can use even things like silver, even NAC to kind of knock out some of those efflux pumps, knock out those biofilms too, because biofilms are another mechanism that antibiotics typically don't address. They don't address the biofilms, which is the protective mucous membrane, or the efflux pumps, which in my example is, imagine you have a microbe, it's in a canoe, right? Here's my little canoe. And so to sink the canoe, you have to dump water in it. So sinking the canoe is like killing the infection. So putting water in is like putting the antimicrobial in. Efflux pumps are like bailing water out, right? The infection's sinking because of the antimicrobials, but the microbe is using those pumps to essentially, it's like a bilge pump in a boat. It's pushing the water back out. And so the efflux pumps, to inhibit them, it's like taking the bucket or the bilge pump and turning it off. It allows the canoe to sink. It allows the infection to go down and be killed. And so some of the herbs that we use will actually knock out some of these efflux pumps. You also have to address the gut permeability, because the gut permeability, people talk about leaky gut or gut permeability like it's its own entity. It's not. It is the downstream effect of a lot of things upstream. So we have infections upstream. We have HCl. We have enzymes upstream. We have lots of nutrient deficiencies upstream as well. Zinc, copper, magnesium, CoQ10, I mentioned amino acids like cysteine. So these are selenium, right? These are all important cofactors where if we have this H. pylori, now we have low stomach acid, now we have low enzymes, and now we have nutrient deficiencies because we're not breaking down these nutrients well. So we really want to be on top of that together. Sorry, my dog's trying to get out of here. But it's okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so we talked about the nutrient deficiencies. We talked about the HCl and the enzymes. We talked about, and these nutrients are also very powerful for modulating the immune system. So selenium knocks down the antibodies. CoQ10 can knock down the antibodies. Cysteine and improving glutathione knocks down the antibodies. Vitamin D knocks down the antibodies. Magnesium can be very helpful at knocking down the antibodies. And then, of course, if you have H. pylori, that can also increase chance of gastritis and ulceration. So now you have this pain issue, And now that can create its own host of issues because now you have bloating, now you have gas, and now you have a lot of symptoms of acid reflux or GERD or silent reflux because of that infection. And so that's where we may have to add in healing and soothing nutrients to calm down that gut lining so we can actually go after and start knocking out the microbes. And again, in my line, we'll use different herbs to knock that out. We'll use GI-Clear 1 and 2 and potentially 4. So we're using a whole suite of high-dose mastic gum. We're going to be using bismuth as well to coat that and to inhibit that bacterial mucus attachment, mucosal attachment. We're going to be doing things like stimona and dill and wormwood and Java brucei. We'll be doing high-dose golden seal and burdock root and olive leaf and neem. So different herbs that have a long track record of working well at very high doses, but that always comes later. It's like getting someone in shape who's been sedentary. You don't just put them through an hour-long CrossFit Murph workout, right? They're going to be beaten up. You have to get them ready for that. And it's the same thing with going after microbes. You have to get them ready for that. Most people make that mistake and want to jump on that bandwagon first, and you really have to slow things down and do it in the right order of operation. So hope you enjoyed today's video. All about thyroid, Hashimoto's, and the H. pylori connection and what you can do. You'll want to get tested. Again, we use some testing here that we'll look deeper at it. We do some of the testing that looks at genetic PCR, so we can look at H. pylori in a more deep way. We can look at quantitative values of how much PCR gene amount there is. Plus, we'll look at the cytotoxic proteins, right? The cytotoxic DNA from the H. pylori, the VIR-D, the VAC-A, the OIP-A, the ICE-A. These are different cytotoxic genetics that tells us how virulent. They're called virulent factors of how virulent the H. pylori is. And if those are present, that can mean that there's more strength and inflammation capacity of that microbe to knock it out. Plus, we see a lot of antibiotic resistance. A lot of times we'll see clarithromycin, amoxicillin, we'll see tetracycline, right? We'll see all these antibiotics that are like first line in the triple or quad therapy for H. pylori. We'll see patients be resistant to it. And that can be a problem because then it's not going to work as well. So hope you guys enjoyed. Again, my book, thyroidreboot.com. Links down below if you want to reach out or dive into my staff or team to get more help on the functional medicine side. We'll order some of the lab testing, look in deep, and really get to the root cause. And if you enjoyed it, let me know with your comments below. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Take care.